car. And this is a $5,000 turbo kit. And today, we're gonna put it on in 24 hours. Now you probably have a few questions, like why are we doing this?
Well, we bought this $500 sports car after the owner had left it sitting in his garage for over 7 years. And now we're trying to see if we can make it fast enough to beat a Ferrari around track. We've already done a ton to the car's cosmetics, suspension, and interior. But as everyone in the comments has pointed out, this won't be enough. Which is why we got this awesome turbo kit from ISR Performance. The only problem?
We finally got a Ferrari to agree to race our little Miata, but it's happening super soon and we're gonna need every advantage we can get. So this turbo kit has to get on fast, really fast. We do have a small problem. Now you see, Will and I, we don't know how to do this.
This key looks nothing like the key that was in the car.
It was just a stupid fuse, I don't know.
Yeah, we've never done a turbo kit before, so let's get into it. There's only one way to learn something, and that's by ignorantly just trying.
An aggressive dismemberment.
I was never quite good at school.
Yeah.
This is surgery. Welcome to the surgical class. I'm gonna scrub in.
Something's wrong with this guy.
The highest this timer will allow. Start the clock, and let's go. We've got 24 hours. We better start moving, actually. We think we're gonna need every second we can get.
First step of all of this is to remove this front section of the old exhaust, because that all changes because turbos are part of the exhaust system.
Like Will said, before we can start to put anything new on the car, we have to take a lot of the stock parts out, starting with the exhaust. The whole front section of the exhaust, including the headers, is being replaced. And unfortunately for us, we just recently put it together using very questionable fasteners. But thankfully, they're still coming out with ease. Now we can go to the top of the engine, unbolt the headers, and very carefully pull everything out of the engine bay. I went fishing. I just caught me one of these Miata headers, 1.6 liter, pretty good catch.
Not regulation length, though, you can't eat it.
No, you gotta give it back. You gotta throw it back. With the required portion of the exhaust fully removed, the next step is to take the intake off because that all is gonna be completely replaced as well. We just installed this intake the correct way, so removing it is also very straightforward. With everything removed, now we can get to the install, which certainly won't be as easy. The first step of all turbo kit installs, from my non-experience of doing a turbo kit, is that the turbo should go in first. It only makes sense. I don't know if that's actually how it's supposed to do, but the only way to put the turbo in is to install the headers, because that's where the turbo mounts to.
Ah, those are gorgeous, man. Shout out ISR.
Dude, ISR knows how to make
Look at their logo on there. Welded.
Oh, that's actually sick.
That is pretty cool.
That is cool. Love when a company puts their logo on something you almost never see. That's just a show of how much they care.
Just for the flex.
How does it flex? So this will go right upside down, sorry. It is gonna be a pain to put the turbo on actually after the fact.
Nah, there's like
Those are gonna sit there. That looks so much cooler.
That does look pretty cool. Those look nice.
Those look really nice.
Equal length.
That is gonna sound probably a lot cooler than it does now.
And go
Which is cool. Come on,
that, yeah.
That's cool. All right, so now we just need to bolt it on.
bolty.
With the headers bolted down, we can start to figure out routing all the lines to the turbo. Our setup requires both coolant and oil to run the turbo, so we have to figure out where we're getting the coolant and the oil from, starting with the oil, which requires getting underneath the car. The reason Will and I are fiddling around down here is there is an oil sensor that we need to take off, and it's buried quite deep. I'm gonna show you. We're going mobile, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out. Do you see that right there? That thing next to the oil filter? That's what we need to get off. And we're gonna do it now. Getting the pressure sensor out is pretty straightforward. You just unplug it and twist it off, and with a bit of brute force and ignorance, it comes right out.
This is the oil pressure sensor. And this has a little high flow little thing on the end where oil comes out of. So we're gonna take the oil from here, put a little spacer here, and then oil's gonna go to the turbo and also to the oil pressure sensor. So now we'll have oil pressure, and the turbo will have oil. It's a win-win. And it was annoying to get out, but not that bad actually. I thought it was gonna be worse. So now I'm gonna figure out how to put the T thing on and then put it back in.
Like Will said, we're taking oil from the oil pressure sensor's hole in the engine block and routing it to the turbo. To do this, we're basically just inserting a spacer in between the sensor and the engine that has two outputs. One for the sensor and one for the line that goes to the turbo. It is a bit tricky to install because it's kind of a tight fit. But after a bit of experimentation, Will has the sensor and spacer installed. And now we can figure out how we're routing the line to the turbo itself. Installing the line to the sensor though is kind of tricky because there's just no room, and it has to be pointed in a certain direction. But thankfully, I'm finally getting it to tighten on properly, and now we can test to see if everything we did worked, which is always a little bit scary.
In order to test if we've done a good job getting this oil line on, Will is gonna fire the motor up, and if oil comes out of here, we did a good job, but it's a little scary. I'm just gonna get a bucket. All right, give it a shot. It's gonna be loud.
Now we're not totally sure if this will be faster than a Ferrari. We'll have to wait and see. But something we can do to make it almost as nice as a Ferrari is a Locksmith air freshener, baby. We've been working a year on these. They are super nice. They honestly are nice enough to belong in a Ferrari, but we're gonna put ours in a Miata.
We don't have a Ferrari.
Because we don't have a Ferrari. We were sick of all the annoying air fresheners that swing from your rearview mirror and give you a headache. Luckily, the Locksmith ones don't do that. We have literally made them the perfect amount of scent. In my opinion, I'm pretty biased because they're our product. You just take it out of here. Look at that lovely wooden block soaked in essential oils.
That smells so good,
Oh my
Jackson.
God, that smells so
Wow,
good.
that smells good.
Oh man, that's the best smelling thing I've ever smelled.
This is English pear, which is divine.
Oh, I can smell it from here.
It smells
And
so
it's
good.
delicious.
Then you get your lovely Luft mount. Throw it on there. Look at that. Look at it's cut perfectly. Tuck it on there. Look at that.
Now doesn't that just look incredible, Jackson?
It looks incredible and it smells incredible. You don't have to, but you can get a monthly subscription, which means you get a new one every single month right when it's about to run out. And if you get the monthly subscription, it's cheaper than just buying a one-off purchase. Girls, by the way, love these things.
Fact of life.
Will's
if your
had-
car smells good, all the girls like it. I take
Yeah.
all the girls in my car and they say, mm-mm-mm.
They do. They say that every time. Loofsense.com. Go take a look at them. Every single purchase helps us make more stuff, and that's what we want to do. Literally reinvesting all the money from these back into the videos, and you get a lovely air freshener for your trouble.
Yeah, you're good. Oil. That's some oil coming out of there, that's for sure.
All right, I was really excited. I thought we did a thing, and then just to check, I reached my hand down here, felt the fitting, and when I came back, dun dun dun,
That's
oil.
So that's not tight.
Where we don't want it to be. Now, here's the thing. I think it's just not tightened enough on the AN fitting.
You think just the line?
I think it's just the line, so I'm just gonna give it some more, you know, juice. Hopefully I'm right, and tightening everything down a bit more solves our problem. Because if not, that means we definitely broke something, which would set us back massively. Thankfully, after a second test run, no more oil appears to be leaking out. So now we can move on to the next step, and one of the coolest parts of the job, installing the turbo. The turbo is held on by just 4 bolts, but immediately as we're starting to try to tighten everything down, we're realizing we made a mistake. We have a slight dilemma, and the dilemma is we should have put the turbo on the headers first. And now we need to take the headers off because you cannot get a wrench anywhere near the bolts that we need to get them on. And if it's off the car, we probably can. Or we definitely can, I hope. So, we're gonna have to take the headers back off again. The first mistake of, I'm sure, many that we're gonna make, and it's definitely gonna eat into our time. We're sitting at right now, if I go to our timer, 20 hours and 49 minutes.
Yeah.
So we still have time, but let's get this done. Every time you take the headers on and off the car, you risk snapping one of the studs for the head, which is a huge pain to fix. Thankfully, ours seem to be pretty solid, and with the headers off, installing the turbo should be a lot easier.
Now, with the headers finally off, we can just barely access these bolts. Oh my God.
Not too bad.
Yeah, it's a lot of turns I get out of that.
Double up, then through.
Okay, so that,
Loop-de-loop and pull.
and then that,
Then flip it.
and then flip it, and then you get that little
extra out of it, and then flip it, and then that, and then back, and that, and then flip it, and then that, and then come back.
I'm gonna let him do this. This is boring as.
With the turbo fully bolted down to the manifold, I'm also going to try mounting the coolant lines and the oil return line to the turbo with it out of the car, because as we learned, it's much easier to access it that way. With all the lines securely attached, we can put the turbo and headers into the engine bay, hopefully for the last time, and start to connect all of the lines to the coolant and oil systems. The first line I'm connecting is the oil feed line that we attached to the engine earlier. With that attached, we can now run the coolant feed and return lines from the turbo. These attach to the pre-existing metal coolant lines coming off the engine and loop the turbo into the factory coolant system. The only line we can attach right now is the turbo oil return line. This will eventually go directly into the oil pan of the engine, but this requires drilling and tapping, which we don't have the parts for just yet. So for now, we're just gonna have to move forward with the install. But before we do anything else, I have an idea.
You might be wondering, why is Will leaning over the car like this? And that's because he's holding a line that's not connected to something, because we're about to do something dumb. And that is start the car to just see if the turbo spins, because we're honestly probably stupid. Obviously it's probably gonna spin. We probably did it right, but it's cool to test and we wanna see what happens. So it's obviously not gonna spool, but
Go for it, baby girl.
this is a horrible idea.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It just doesn't know how to run yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably crankcase pressure.
It could be cranking pressure, it could be the fact that the intake is...
It has no idea what's going on, which is why, follow me over here, camera. We have this, a Mega Squirt, which sounds like something different, but it's actually a computer for the car, which is gonna tell it that it has a turbo on it and tell it how to run. Right now it doesn't have that, and there's a lot of stuff disconnected. So we first need to connect everything, which makes a whole lot of sense. We just wanted to make sure the exhaust gases were actually spinning the turbo. And now we should do the part that we should have done in the first place before we started it, which was actually get everything else connected. But we're getting there, slowly, and we still have 19 hours. So we're doing good.
Now that we know everything is at least vaguely working, we have to start routing all of the necessary piping for the turbo kit. This piping is what takes the pressurized air from the turbo, cools it off, and then feeds it into the engine. One really important component to this system is the intercooler. So first, we're going to mount that to the front of the car, which requires removing the bumper. After a bit of experimentation, we believe we have the intercooler properly mounted, and now we can start to run the piping to the intercooler. The side that feeds cooled air into the engine is actually very simple, but unfortunately the other side is not so self-explanatory. This turbo kit is basically brand new, so unfortunately there are no full instructions yet, which means it's up to us to figure out how to route everything, which is going exactly how you'd expect.
For the past, I would say, we were last spoke at about when we had 19 hours left, and now we have 17 and a half hours left. So for the past hour and a half, all we've been doing is trying to figure out where all the charge piping goes. The charge piping is what brings the air from the turbo to the intake, the compressed air, and then makes your car faster. But the problem is, we need to run all of the piping to the beautiful intercooler that we set up, which is what cools the air down. Now, the thing is, one side was pretty self-explanatory. We figured that out. This side we've been looking at for literally an hour. And what we've come to the conclusion of is that we need to drill through here, so scary, and then run the pipe down and over, and that's how it's supposed to go. Because every other orientation doesn't seem to work. So now we have to drill right into the car, which is so lovely and totally cool. So, yeah, let's do that, I guess. Ah! God, that is horrifying. Gosh, that was effective, huh?
Nice.
Wow!
So
Dude,
glad we
honestly,
had the right size hole saw somehow.
that's insane.
This has been the right size hole saw for everything ever.
Everything's that
2
one
1/4
size.
inches.
It's a nice hole, dude.
That was really well done. Look at how good this hole is, dude. Some nice hole. That feels essentially less right.
Yeah.
Should work. It's gonna be very, very close. We need to make another hole here so that this can kind of sit a little more flush.
Wait, let me just double check that.
That's right. I met you there.
With a hole in the frame cut, we can finally get all of the pipes properly installed, which means we are one step closer to having a running car. All of the metal pipes are held together with rubber hoses and hose clamps. This allows a bit of adjustment so we can make sure everything is lined up properly and there aren't any major leaks. After a bit of trial and error, all of the charge piping is connected and we're one step closer to a turbo Miata, which is super exciting and hopefully a step closer to beating a Ferrari.
Now we have everything allegedly routed, almost, except for that one oil thing, which we will take care of once the adapter we ordered gets here. We're lifting the car up here now so we can complete the exhaust.
That's an important part of the turbo setup.
Yeah. But look at this. There's things in there for sure.
There's lots of stuff.
Thank you, ISR Performance. This is very nice. It's a little bit confusing for us because we're slow, but if you've watched this video or are a competent mechanic, I'm sure you could figure it out much faster than us.
Everything goes together actually really well.
I know, it's like all
We
perfect.
just didn't know how to do it.
After quickly realizing we don't know what we're doing, we realized putting the downpipe in is easier with the car lowered. The downpipe is held in with just a few bolts. And with that attached, I can put the car in the air and install the rest of the exhaust. If you've worked on cars before, you might know that the O2 sensor goes into the downpipe, and might have noticed we didn't reinstall it. But that was on purpose, which I will now explain.
Now that the exhaust is all set up, we're kind of just waiting on Will. And the reason we're waiting on Will is because Will needs to wire in an air fuel gauge. Without the air fuel gauge, we can't tune the car because the computer itself will have no idea how much air and fuel is actually needed to go into the engine to make it run properly. So right now, if we try to start the car like we have, it doesn't really run super well. And that's because it has no idea what's happening. And the air fuel gauge will help that computer understand what's going on inside the car and then hopefully allow it to actually run and have the whole turbo kit work. So what Will's doing right now is wiring, which is terrifying because neither Will nor I know how to wire anything.
I'm gonna make it work, man.
But Will's gonna make it work and I love his confidence. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna give him some time here. We have, you know, still quite a bit of time, like
Honestly,
13 hours, so.
The problem isn't the comprehension of it. It's like I understand what's supposed to happen. I just don't know how to make this work. All right, so this is the current setup. I have this, which is the new wideband O2 sensor that goes into the exhaust. That goes into this, which is lambda to cam, which has the output we need. That goes there. This is the little thing I made. I only have one color wire, so they're all the same, which shouldn't be confusing at all. Professional stuff. And I'm gonna get this to come through there, go out to the O2 sensor port, which is an exhaust on the other side. That would be this. So that's that, comes through here. Through this little hole that I'm definitely gonna have to widen now looking at it. Do I know what I'm doing? Not at all. But I'm gonna work it out, magic style.
Basically, what Will is doing is installing a much smarter O2 sensor than the car came with from the factory. There are two main types of O2 sensors, narrow and wideband. This car came with a narrow band, but we want a wideband because it gives the ECU even more data to see what's going on in the engine, and that allows us to make the car run better and make more power. With the sensor fed through the firewall, plugged into the ECU and powered, as well as the ECU properly installed itself, we can finally start the process, which I'm sure you are all very excited to see us try, tuning the car. By the way, we've never tuned a car in our entire lives before.
Anything from that?
I mean, it turned on.
Rev it. I'll try it again. Ready?
Try that again.
According to everybody online, the company that makes the ECU and the turbo kit, if we installed everything correctly, the car should just fire up and at least idle with the base map that comes pre-installed on the ECU. Clearly though, that's not the case. And right now, unfortunately, no matter what Will does, who he asks for help, or what videos he finds online, we just can't get the car running. After starting the car over and over again though, we ran into a much bigger problem that actually might make this entire project impossible.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a problem. While we were tuning the car, this happened. That is gonna delay us. We're calling a locksmith right now to see if somebody can come help us because this has to get done. We are still on the clock, and we can't tune the car if we can't start the car. Yeah, so now we're just making calls to locksmiths. So this is not exactly how I was hoping this would go. But yeah, now we have an unusable Miata with a half-installed turbo kit. Wish us luck. I went to a locksmith, and there was a slight issue. The locksmith told me he couldn't do anything to fix the key. Mazda can't help me fix the key, but the locksmith did say that if I bring him the door cylinder, I can show you, this piece, there's a code on it, and then he'll be able to figure out how to make a key for it. I don't know what's going on, but what I do know is we're wasting a whole lot of time trying to fix this key. So I'm gonna try to get this disassembled, and I have to take this door card off that I just put on, and hopefully then I can get to the thing I'm looking for.
We came with just one broken key and we leave with 2 brand new keys, but we have to still see if they turn the actual ignition of the car. So we're gonna go find that out now.
Okay, well we can't really start the car right now, but what we can do is I can very awesomely close the trunk, which we won't be able to unlock unless, uh-oh. Unless, uh-oh, that can't be good.
God damn it, man. Dude, this key looks nothing like the key that was in the car.
Dude, that's what came up when he did the code, though, from the door.
But, dog, this is not. This is a completely different.
One week later.
All right, so today I have a mustache because it's Movember and I'm learning how to tune. It's not going great, but I found out you need one of these, which, although it looks slightly weapony, is a timing light. And you point it at something down here and it tells you the mechanical timing of your engine versus top dead center. And what that means is basically all cars are unique. So even though I have a base map on the ECU for the Miata, the electronic timing and the mechanical timing might not be synced, so the engine's sending fuel and spark at the wrong time, is basically what that means. So what I do, I point this at the actual crank spinny thing down there. It flashes a light and tells me how many degrees off it is from what the ECU thinks it is, and then I can program it into the ECU, and then the car will know exactly what's going on. Seems complicated, but it's actually not too bad. It's just one of those things that I didn't know about until now. But now I have the right tool. I had to go buy this from Harbor Freight, and now I can point it at the thing and figure it out. So I'm gonna figure out how this works, because I still don't know how that works. But we're getting there. I have everything connected now. This points here at the little crank down there, and it should start flashing when Jackson starts cranking it. It's not flashing right now. I'm not exactly sure why. Might have to troubleshoot that. It might just be because the car's not cranking. But I also unplugged it. Whoa! Sorry. Jackson kicked something. I also unplugged the fuel pump so we can just keep cranking it. Because that's what you're supposed to do.
Ready?
Yep. Just keep cranking. Okay, I don't know. I don't see a timing mark on our... Try again. It's not doing anything now. All right, so new issue is our harmonic balancer doesn't have a top dead center mark on it, so what we're gonna do is make one. To do that, I pulled out this tube that goes to the spark. Wow, it's very oily. I pulled out the spark plug tube, and then we're gonna take the spark plug out and basically put a big stick in there, and that stick goes to the top of cylinder 1, and we basically wait until the cylinder's all the way up at the top of it, and that means the engine is at top dead center, because it's cylinder 1, top of the stroke. Do I really know what it means? No, but I've been told that's what we should do to find top dead center, and then that allegedly will allow me to figure out timing. You might need like a... There we go. All right, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, down.
Yeah, okay.
Go back.
That's top dead
top
center.
dead center. That was easy.
Yes.
Go. All right, it is working. I just needed to idle.
It turns out those were going to be Will's famous last words. The car will absolutely not idle, no matter what we do. We've changed just about every setting in the tune. Changed out the spark plugs, called literally everybody we know that would have any idea of how to fix it, yet still nothing.
Try again.
After multiple days of experimentation, failure, and frustration, it's starting to seem like we might not be able to make the car run on our own. But then, something absolutely incredible happened.
It was just a stupid fuse. I don't know. The guy in the guy at the place gave me. He said, "Hey, did you check step 1, which is remove this fuse?" And I was like, "I think that fuse is still there." I have no
Step 1.
Apparently, it wasn't in the install guide that I was reading.
All right. Just for reference, Will has been trying to tune this. We've fallen so far behind schedule here. We were supposed to race the Ferrari. We had the Ferrari lined up, as you know, and then it all went as it usually goes. So, Will's been working on tuning this thing and just getting it to idle 4 days. I think it's been 3 days of Will trying to get it to idle, and now, finally,
Bro, turn her on. Fire her up, buddy. Like nothing. It idles great. I don't know what that noise is. It runs!
it runs somehow.
Yes! I knew that fuse the whole time. I was just playing it up for the video. Right, guys?
Right.
Just play it up for the video. Step 1 of the install guide.
That was the guy on the phone. He just said, "Did you look at the?"
Yeah, he was like, "Dude, check this fuse, man."
Why does that stop it from?
If I know, man. Apparently you can blow up the ECU from doing it that way, though. And they're like, "We beefed up the new one, so it should be fine if you've been trying that." So I didn't break it.
So we almost blew up the
Yeah, apparently.
Why does it
have a fuse that kills the ECU?
Why is there a blowy uppy fuse that's
I
just
just want to
pre-installed?
Now that the car is running, we can finally start to finish all of the smaller jobs we've left, starting with tapping into the oil pan. Like we said earlier, we are already feeding oil into the turbo, so this line goes straight into the engine of the car and puts the oil from the turbo back into the system. To make it work, I'm drilling a hole into the oil pan, using a tap to thread the hole, which is difficult and stressful, and then admittedly, after a few tries, threading a fitting into it that I can then connect the line from the turbo to. And with that all done, we can move on to one of the last, but most crucial steps of this job, the fuel system. We're starting off by upgrading the injectors, which should be a fairly simple process. In a Miata, the injectors are really accessible, like everything on this car. So all we have to do is take the old ones out and replace them with these shiny new ones. Upgraded fuel injectors are key if you're adding boost to a car. These injectors allow for more fuel to flow into each cylinder, which combined with the added air from the turbo allows us to make more power. More air, more fuel, more power. Simple as that. With the old injectors removed and the new ones lined up, I can now tighten everything down and it should be good to go. But that doesn't seem like the case for some reason.
I've done something very dumb and stupid. I missed a spacer, and because of that, I destroyed the very expensive injectors. So now, having already been behind, I had to overnight new expensive injectors and pay about $1,000 now in injectors to try to get this resolved. You know, sometimes you make stupid mistakes, and this was definitely one of them. But ain't nothing but we can do but nothing that we can really do about it besides just forge ahead. Now, I'm not really sure exactly how broken these truly are. You can kind of see, I hope, that it's sort of curled, the metal is broken there. I don't know exactly if it's usable or not. I assume it's not.
While we wait for the new injectors to come, we can upgrade the other part of the fuel system, and that is the fuel pump. You see, these new injectors would be completely useless if the pump wasn't upgraded. Without it upgraded, the original pump could never feed them enough fuel. Upgrading the fuel pump is pretty simple in this case. You just remove the whole assembly from the fuel tank behind the driver's seat, take the old pump out, and then, with a bit of persuasion, fit the new upgraded pump and reinstall the whole assembly. Now that the pump is done, we can install the new injectors, which are finally here. And with those installed properly this time, we can fire the car up and see if it'll run. And if it does, then we can actually drive it and tune it on the street.
It's running good.
We're finally in the Miata, which means only one thing. It's time to make it fast via this laptop.
Which is terrifying because the one holding this laptop is me. And that's never good.
So how this works is as I drive, Will is gonna be in the tuning software, and then that will hopefully mean that Will can adjust things via the laptop, like fuel, timing, all that stuff, to make sure this thing is running good. The only problem we might have is that the clutch could slip. We have a new clutch if we need to put it in, but we're hoping that this clutch can handle the current levels of power that this is gonna make. It should be at least double as fast as it was before, if not a dash more.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, just for all that was easy. Well, not that easy.
We failed the 24-hour thing if you couldn't tell.
We did, but now I think it should hopefully be faster than a Ferrari, but the only way we can actually make it faster is by tuning it properly, and we're a bunch of idiots who don't know how to do that. We're just getting the car warm, but listen to this. Oh, that sounds fast. Oh, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to like fully get on it.
It does sound good. That wasn't the tune.
That was just a mischief.
Oh my god, we have a turbo Miata!
Check this out, ladies and gents.
Oh my god, it's so
Oh my god, feels fast.
Oh man.
I don't know how much boost we're making, but
We're definitely leaking some boost, but we can fix that.
that's crazy.
Oh man. Right now what I'm doing is I'm letting it auto-tune. Oh god. This ECU has an auto-tune feature in this tuning software, and it basically just reads all the information and does it for you. Apparently it's not a perfect tune ever, but to get it running and get it driving to where we can bring it to someone to dyno tune, it'll give us a nice base, so we can at least use it. Now before we race a Ferrari, we're gonna definitely wanna get a professional tune, but at least for now, we know we have a much quicker and much more turbocharged Miata, which is the coolest thing ever.
All right, guys, is it faster than a Ferrari? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that means next Miata episode. Our little Miata, our little $500 rocket is gonna go head to head. And I'm hoping that this is enough. We might need to do some tweaking, but it's feeling super fast. Subscribe, you will not want to miss the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Clocking out.